Sometimes. 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 You just need a nice North American head bashing to appreciate the finer things in life. Hi, I'm Sebastian. This is Vision Denial and the road to MSI, where, other than looking disheveled, we go through all 12 regions playoff series and review them. Yes, even that one. We got today our Team Liquid versus Cloud9, where Cloud9 takes out the win 3-1, and Team Liquid will have to face the winner of TSM versus 100 Thieves. Likely TSM. And as a preface, I'm recording this on the 13th of April, so a lot of these playoffs are already done. But I watch them in order, and I avoid them all the spoilers as much as I can. So let's just go through it. What are some of the positives that I got here? Because I don't have a whole lot of negatives, but there are some still. Some of the positives. I think the vision and neutral setup from Cloud9 is excellent. Solid stuff. Team Liquid has some pretty solid ways of doing wave manipulation. Really good. And I have no major complaints about the way these two teams close. They tend to close within the first Baron, and they don't seem very Baron dependent to like keep closing out games. And even shortly after they have a Baron, they're able to close out a game, even if it requires like around the Elder Drake sometimes. And like that bothers me less than if you were to like keep getting Barons over and over and over again. So you know what? Solid stuff. I think that Cloud9 has a better sense of drafting, like what. Because I don't think there's not a lot here. There's some repetitiveness, but again, it's not like they're repeating their own comps. They seem to be trading sometimes the types of styles of compositions, or like there's just only minor adjustments. And as a nitpick goes, that's whatever. It's not like a huge thing where like they're doing it for 3 or 4 games where they're just only doing minor changes for each one. There's at least like 3 variant comps that exist within these 4 games for all of the 2 teams here. Now, I think that Cloud9 has a better sense of how to approach these pick bans than Team Liquid, especially since they keep getting Silas when Hecarim and Seraphine are picked. And I think like that's just, you're allowing both of your engaged tools to just go straight. Here you go, and then you have like better follow-up. It's not a great move, but then again, they're playing a patch behind, so a lot of the thought processes that a lot of the other regions are going for, because I believe that only North America and Japan are on 11.5, while everybody else is on 11.6. Which is a little small factor to consider when looking at these games. The approaches aren't always going to be the same. There is a large overlap. There's like still things that both patches are playing with, but there's that part to consider. So I can understand why maybe Silas wasn't a major consideration amongst these pick bans, and they would fall for it twice. And then Team Liquid on game 3 take it, but it doesn't work out as well. Now, I think that Team Liquid tends to favor scaling compositions opposed to pressure, which leads me to thinking that they're going to fall under the same problems that a lot of the lower region teams get, where like the better of the team is the one that punishes better. And I'm really hoping that's not the case. Team Liquid shows a great amount of initiative, especially in their game 2, where they're able to like keep up the pressure, keep up the tempo, and are when they do have the lead and a solid tempo lead, they are able to like secure a bunch of the neutral objectives. But unfortunately, even with that, they're much weaker at approaching neutral setups than Cloud9. And Cloud9 surprised me in a lot of ways. I think this is one of the cleanest teams that I've seen in terms of like setting up neutral objectives. And like there are problems. They are not very consistent at securing them, which means like the way they approach their engages when they're trying to like confront the enemy team's approach to them when they're being, you know, contested for these objectives. but they're consistently setting vision ahead of time. They're not doing what Team Liquid did, which is like get there, start it, and start setting up vision as they're doing it. That's not a smart move. Not good. Cloud9 especially establishes their vision around the area, make sure that the waves are in a situation, or at least that there's nobody there that can contest them easily, and that the pressure that they need to apply is at the right spots, so that it's hard for them to be contested or hard for them to do a counterplay somewhere else. And like honestly, I'm pretty sure they got the vast majority of all the objectives. I think there's 3 first heralds that they didn't get, and maybe 2 or 3 drakes they didn't get out of the 4 games. Shit. I mean, like, I think I'm a little wrong on that, but the vast majority of the neutral objectives went to Cloud9, including the Barons. And I think the only time that Team Liquid got to see a Baron is the game they won, where they had the pressure and the tempo lead the entire time. I think that's the only time I saw Cloud9 really approach neutral objectives weirdly. They were contesting. And I think it's a weakness that Cloud9 has, is that when they're behind, the way they contest objectives, or the way that they contest pressure and tempo, is really bizarre. They seem very like eager to get into something without doing the same type of setups that they would have if they were the ones to establish the tempo lead or the control ahead of time. Things that I want to see Team Liquid do to improve. Like, their series are already done. They've already played all the playoffs. Same with Cloud9. But like before that, I get to see them. Right, I would want to see Team Liquid be more consistent with tempo and pressure. Go ahead, do something with it. I have no issues in terms of like the way they play lanes or their skill expression. I also want them to probably think up a lot more variety in terms of like answering like twists and turns to their compositions. I don't have like a major issue with the way that they do drafts, but I do think that sometimes they fall into traps very easily, which tells me either that Cloud9 knows Team Liquid very well, or that Team Liquid don't prepare enough options to, you know, counteract some of these traps. Or both. It could be both. What about... yeah, Cloud9. Things I want to see improved. I want to see a better approach to when you're behind, or better approach to some of the engages or like contesting that you do, because you're very good at setting up and like answering contests, but you contesting is not as solid. And I think that could be a major issue if you're the ones that qualified for the MSI. It's not solid between which of these 2 teams, because these 2 teams, if it's Team Liquid that beats whoever the winner of 100 Thieves versus TSM, these 2 teams will face again, which I believe, based off of how I've seen, definitely not 100 Thieves is going to win that, so they're likely going to face off TSM. And from what I've seen of TSM has like a little bit more to go. I'll get to see that for sure when they face off 100 Thieves, and I'll get to watch that, see how cleanly they face that off. But if they don't do it as cleanly, I don't think Team Liquid will have an issue facing TSM again, because, you know, that's who they lost to previously, so it'll be a rematch. So we'll have 2 rematches with Team Liquid facing off Cloud9. And if that's the case, then I'm not surprised if Team Liquid bounces back from this, so long as they clean up some of the drafting errors, like don't fall into so many traps, and then also be a little bit more proactive. The game that you won, it was a very clean game. You were much more proactive, even if your neutrals weren't very like properly done, or like the vision denial itself. The fact that you had the lead and you had the tempo ahead of time really demonstrated something like a very solid understanding of what your win conditions are. Both of these teams have very solid understanding of their opponents and their own win condition. Good. And it's just about a matter of time for both of these teams to just like solidify it, and then it would come down to like making sure that their drafting is not so bizarre in some of these cases. Like, there's nothing wrong with them, they're not up to par to what everybody else is doing because they're a patch behind. And I don't think that they are very good at contesting or setting up engages. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Team fights on both of these sides are whack. It really it devolves into less coordination and more individual play. And that's fine, right? Like the second they see one person hit a skill shot, they all hit one after the other, and that's like years and years. Neither of these teams are like they have a rookie. No, they both have like very experienced players at this point, so that's fine. But I think that if they either of these teams qualify to MSI and they face another region that has like both the capacity of setting up neutrals, wave pressure, uh, and contesting, that the team fight being the defining factor, they might lose out because it seems like there's only like a little bit of a lag behind how they coordinate in team fights. And I think it might have to do with the fact that some of these other teams internationally have had their rosters, or the vast majority of their rosters, together a lot longer, and and these two teams have had like, I think Team Liquid is the only one. Team Liquid is the only one with like a roster that's like 3/5 what they had last year. Yeah. So I don't know. A lot. There's North America has a huge turnover rate, so like there's always these growing pains that a lot of these teams have to go through. But the the fact of the matter here is that it still looks like both of these teams are fairly slow on the upkeep with their team fights, and that might be a huge factor internationally. But other than that, their approach to the early game is fine. Again, just minor cleanups here and there in terms of vision and setups. Contesting is still weird, but those tend to do more with coordination than actual knowledge and application. So both of these teams just need to like have a better sense of coordination, and I think that they might do very well. They could possibly fend off Mad Lions. Could possibly. Mad Lions seems to show a lot more coordination, a lot more like assuredness of what they're doing. So I'm not convinced of it, but if there's that much improvement within the next 3 playoff series left in North America, is there 3 series in North America? Yeah, there's only 3. If in the next 3 series within North America I see a drastic improvement within either of these teams, then like maybe. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Next up, we're going to be seeing Gillette's Infinity versus All Knights in Latin America for their semifinal. And that should be fun. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.